At what point do you allow the athlete to make their own decisions? This is a very good question, and I don't think it's an either or thing. I think people oftentimes put things in either or boxes instead of and boxes, meaning they think you have to do one thing or the other thing. Let's be clear. I have children. At this particular time of the recording, I have a daughter who's 7, and I have a son who is 11. And I let my children make some decisions for themselves. I ask them if they want to go see movie A or movie B. I ask them if they want pizza, what type of pizza would they like. I ask them if they want to go to one place or another place for dessert. I ask them if they want chocolate cake or chocolate ice cream. I will allow my children to make decisions. I allow my children to make decisions for themselves depending on the stakes at hand. I allow my children to make certain decisions depending on their maturity level. And every person is different. And the timeline at which people make their own decisions and when they make their own decision varies. Case in point, when it comes to judo, my son who is 11, if he's at a local area tournament, there are certain times when I won't sit in the coach's chair, especially when it's double elimination. I'll sit outside the coach's chair and I'll say, Rufus, I want you to think your way through this match and let's talk about it when you're done. He says, okay, Daddy, and he gets it done. There's certain times when I ask him, I say, Rufus, do you want me to sit in the chair or do you not want me to sit in the chair? He'll look over, look at the competitor, and he says sometimes, I got it, Daddy. Or he says, I think I need some help on this one. And then I sit in the chair, allowing him to make his own decisions. When it comes to the times when I'm not in the chair or the times when I don't say things, it's because I want him to work through situations and learn how to think through some situations with no cueing and no prompting. There are times for that in terms of the developmental process. What I think that many people get conflated is I think they get coaching from the chair or receiving advice from the chair as a crutch and not as support. The coach is in the chair to support the athlete in the environment of play. Meaning, I'm there in the coach's chair to give support in terms of movement, to give support in terms of thought processes, to give support in terms of motivation, and then to give support in terms of the realization of ideas. Every athlete has things going through their mind at certain times. On the professional level, where we can only talk in between the mate, it is during that time you need to help your athlete sometimes sort some things out so that they understand exactly what to choose and what not to choose during the next iteration. Are there times when the athlete is not going to have you there? Of course. And in practice, you need to provide or go through the process of weaning yourself to make the athlete an independent thinker. That is a process. Everyone processes it differently. When it's time for you to go overseas or travel internationally, and sometimes nationally, you're not going to always have your coach there. And those times when you do not have your coach there, those are the times when you have an opportunity to think for yourself. Make sure you record your matches, bring them back home, and get the information that you need. It's not that, I think a lot of people think that having a coach cue or prompt an athlete through the competitive environment means that the athlete isn't thinking. Well, you have to understand this. One of the major keys to being a quality athlete is being a good listener and being disciplined. You have to be able to listen. As the athlete listens and as the athlete digests information over a long period of time, that information that the athlete has digested now becomes applicable cognitive nutrition that they can use in the environment of play. They have to be fed before they can go out and exert or illustrate the type of behavior that you would expect them to illustrate per the environment, per the information that they need to have within that environment. Meaning, there are certain competitions where the cognitive delta is going to be greater than the athlete's ability. It is in those cases where the Coach has to make up that particular delta so that the athlete's abilities can be illustrated or exhibited in the environment of play. You cannot allow the information delta that your athlete has to cripple them in the environment of play when you are there in order to help them. It's your job to help them not get out coached. That's your job. Is what you do. Do you help them become independent thinkers? Yes, you do. Are there certain times that you shouldn't sit in the chair? Yes, there are certain times when you shouldn't sit in the chair. Smaller tournaments and then building up the other tournaments. And then sometimes if you're a coach, you let your kid know, hey, I'm going to coach person A over here. They need me a little bit more. You got it. Based upon who they're fighting. You know when they need you in the chair and when they don't. You know. And you let them do some things by themselves sometimes. Sometimes. But it's a process. You don't let a 7-year-old make the same decisions that a 21-year-old makes. Why? Because a 21-year-old is an adult. A 7-year-old is not. They still need to be guided. And all athletes need to be guided. I've been watching football, and I've been watching soccer, and I've watched hockey, and I watch basketball, and I have yet to see any of those teams run out on the court or in the environment of play without their coach. It just doesn't happen. It just doesn't happen. There are sports like tennis where the athletes are on the court and they understand through a process. Okay, they understand through a process that they have to become independent thinkers, but they're also coached sometimes in between sets and in between the games. Of course, you can't yell while the volley is going on because that particular sport is just different. But in combat sports, coaching happens all the time while the athletes are fighting. I fought professionally in MMA. There's no way that I would want to be in a fight and not hear from my corner during the fight. That's just ridiculous. You need the information. And the mate calls in Judo are very similar to a boxer going into the corner in between the rounds. It is during that time where you need the information. It is crucial. And we do not want to stop our coaches from providing information to our athletes when they need them. It is not the job of the spectator to decide the maturity level of the athlete and when that athlete doesn't need cueing, prompting, and outright coaching during an event. So, in the question of when should the athlete think for themselves, and the athlete should think for themselves often, and the athlete should receive coaching often. So take care. Have a fantastic day.